And, you know, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there.
You probably already know all about this viral clip here of a comedian's controversial appearance at Donald Trump's rally in Madison Square Garden. But I wanted to share some clips from the Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian's breakdown of the footage and chime in with some of my own thoughts here, because this felt like a misstep that you couldn't script even if you tried. We'll get right into the clips here, and I'll share my opinions toward the middle and the end. Let's get right into it.
It is absolutely wild times. It really, really is. Again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody.
The Trump campaign is attempting to distance itself from the comedian you just heard from, Tony Hinchcliffe, who is also known as Kill Tony, for his offensive and racist jokes during a rally in Madison Square Garden over the weekend. Now, as you just heard, he called Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage, but as you also just heard, that audience of Trump supporters who go to this Trump rally clearly did not find it funny. And I choose to focus on that. That gives me a little bit of hope in this country and in the electorate. They clearly didn't enjoy it, but we do have more where that came from.
Yeah, and I focus on both. So look, it's super important to note that the audience groaned, and they groaned so much that he made note of it over and over again. They did not enjoy the set. So do not say that everybody who went to that rally agrees with this guy and thinks along the same ways. And I get it, he's a comic. Terrible so-called comedy. That was not a joke. That was just, isn't it funny to make fun of Puerto Ricans? Or just to insult Puerto Ricans. Where's the punchline? Is the punchline that they're dirty? Is that because garbage? Where's the punchline? So don't give me this garbage about, at one point there was some garbage bill in Puerto Rico, as if he knew that and he's following Puerto Rican politics and he was making a super obscure joke about that. No, it was a very blunt instrument joke. It was dumb. But guys, whether you think it's fair or not fair, the stench of that joke and the other things that were said in that rally are gonna stick to the Republicans. Just like I told you, the McDonald's stunt that he did was a really good PR move, even though there was no substance behind it. He's against higher wages for McDonald's workers, he's against regulations that protect those workers, etc. But it was a good PR stunt and worked really well for him. This is the exact opposite. The audience might have grown, it might be a comic, but it's gonna be terrible for the Trump campaign.
Which is why the Trump campaign is doing everything it can to distance themselves from what happened in Madison Square Garden. In fact, even Peter Navarro's coming out with some pretty harsh language against the comedian. Hinchcliffe is irritated by the backlash he's getting. He thinks that people are humorless. In fact, he was pretty irritated with the audience at this rally. So let's take a look at more.
Believe it or not, people, I welcome migrants to the United States of America with open arms. And by open arms, I mean like this. It's wild. And these Latinos, they love making babies too, just know that. They do. They do. There's no pulling out. They don't do that. They come inside, just like they did to our country. It's a cool black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that, a lampshade? Look at this guy. Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm just kidding, that's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun, we carved watermelons together. It was awesome. You guys this is a groany little morning crowd, huh?
There's a time and place for every joke, and I honestly don't think that we need to police everything that every comedian says. But the jokes Tony made at this rally fell flat. The appearance was almost so out of place and direct, I'd be willing to chalk it up to Tony doing what he did on purpose to hurt Donald Trump's campaign. You would think that with what is at stake here, with what the rally was for, to be the next president of the United States, Donald Trump or his team, anyone with any pull in the campaign, the jokes would have been vetted or adjusted to appear more tongue-in-cheek or something. It's just baffling how Donald Trump won't take accountability for someone's appearance at something with his name on it. And I'm of the personal belief that even if Donald Trump himself didn't make those comments, He could and would have said them in a different way. So it's not like the comedian wasn't trying to play to his base.
It's tough to follow this audition for the next Commissioner Gordon's over here.
So it's really interesting because, you know, the Trump campaign alleges that his set wasn't vetted ahead of time. That's probably true, but I mean, someone loaded, if those jokes were on a teleprompter, someone loaded on a teleprompter, unclear if they did. But the other thing that I'll just mention is, it's interesting because there are two different campaigns here in this election, obviously. And they have two different approaches that I think are bad when it comes to vetting speeches and performers. So on the Republican end, you have the Trump campaign not doing its due diligence and not ensuring that the comedian has a set that's going to anger even Trump supporters. But then on the Democratic side, you'll have a literal Democratic surrogate who wants to give a quick 5 to 10 minute speech at the convention and will like allow the party to vet the speech, but she's Palestinian. So Palestinian surrogate, we can't allow her to speak because we can't risk it.
Yeah, so look, I get some of those jokes, right? And in a different context, someone would be fine. The garbage joke was not a joke. The punchline there was, don't we all hate Puerto Ricans? Again, the crowd groaned there, and they groaned, I thought at exactly the right parts at the watermelon line, right? But they actually didn't groan on the immigration line, and I get it, right? It's a little bit, so that one, if you're a Democrat and you get super offended, I got it. And is this the right context for those kind of jokes? No, right? But the other, like, the ones that barely jokes that just go, hey, don't we all hate these sets of people? I can't stand those. And I think they're super counterproductive and terrible. But Anna's 100% right. Democrats are too safe and Republicans are too unsafe.
And it hurts both campaigns.
Exactly right. So look, I'll tell you a funny one that's not even, that's like somewhere in the middle. But so I was opening for Bernie one time and I started attacking Hillary Clinton too much back in 2016. And when I started going off on Hillary too much, Bernie started coming out to make sure that they got me off, okay? So he came from the stage and they started roaring. I was like, oh, I got you, okay? So even Bernie plays it a little safe, like actually a decent amount safe. Kamala Harris is on the, okay, we're vetting everything, every word, everything has to be a talking point. Remember, the speeches all have to be super boring and uninteresting. And then we bring out a super big celebrity and everybody goes, oh my God, it's Beyonce or Taylor Swift. And everybody go back to the plan, etc. And the Trump rally is like, don't we hate Puerto Ricans and black people, right? And it's like, Jesus, man, these are the options we have. But to me, the Rudy stuff about Palestinians was worse than any joke from a comic.
We're gonna get to that in a minute, but I gotta make another point because, listen, if you're a Democratic voter and you are drinking the Democratic Party's Kool-Aid on how offended you should be about this comedian, I hear you. I found his jokes pretty gross and offensive. And I'm actually happy that the Trump campaign is distancing themselves because usually they don't do that.
Yeah, that's rare.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So for instance, Danielle Alvarez, a senior campaign advisor, told the Washington Post point blank, this joke does not reflect the views of President Trump or the campaign. As I mentioned earlier, Peter Navarro is like trashing the comedian and everything. But look, put that aside. I wanna just quickly talk about the difference between rhetoric, which may be gross, which might direct hatred toward a group of people, and actions which honestly lead to more devastation for Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico than anything else. We still have this antiquated 1920s law called the Jones Act, which basically forces Puerto Rico to only accept imports because remember, Puerto Rico is considered part of the United States, and the Jones Act states that, you know, any products that are going from one American port to another needs to be shipped by a US ship, a US owned and made ship with a US crew. And look, this law came about after World War I, and it had a lot to do with national security, right? Because you want to make sure, things are going from one American port to another, it's secure and you don't want a ship that was built by a potential adversary, that kind of thing. But what it's led to with Puerto Rico is inflated costs for energy. It actually complicated the hurricane relief efforts. Now, the Biden administration did a quick one-time waiver for Puerto Rico in order to help them recover from Hurricane Maria. But like, let's keep it real. Like let's actually have a conversation about how both parties, Democrats and Republicans, refuse to reform that law, which is totally battering Puerto Rico as we speak.
So Anna, that's super substantive and correct, but in the context of an election that's about a week away, Republicans, if you don't get that when you call Puerto Rico garbage, that you're going to turn off all Puerto Rican voters.
No, but they do get it. That's why they're distancing themselves from the comedian.
No.
Perception is very important, and I don't think it's a stretch to say that generally the Republicans or right-wingers are seen as bullies or practitioners of tough love, while left-wingers are seen as too soft or too sensitive. With the election being so close, having huge groups of potential voters be swayed by mistakes like this is the last thing Trump's campaign needs. There comes a point where there can be too much damage control and catching up. But what are your thoughts on the clip here? Do you agree with Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian's takes on the situation? Do you think the jokes were no big deal? I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. Take care until next time.